Real fast, second channel video is live. Go watch it if you want to see me be a little bit more serious. Sometimes I wonder if I was somebody who didn't play any TCGs starting fresh, would I pick up MTG right now? And this got me thinking about whether or not now is a good time to get into Magic the Gathering. In this video, I want to talk about some of the general pros and cons as to what's going on in Magic right now and whether or not I feel like it is a good time to get into the game. But every single topic I bring up here is more nuanced than what I'm going to get into in this small video. So for almost all of those, I will show an image of me with the thumbnail of another video that is much longer that gets more into the topic. So I'll put a card up to those there if you want to just follow along and watch those videos. You can also just stick here and watch this video. Just know that everything's a little bit more nuanced than it is in this video. Magic can be hard to get into. There are a lot of cards and rules, and some of those cards are expensive. Where do you even start? Luckily, there is Commander. This format is the new player format. Not because it should be, but because it's the most frictionless. For most TCGs, you need to spend a lot of money up front, and you need to know the meta, you need to learn the rules, and then you have to go to like tournaments to play like regular 1v1 competitive versions of the game. That's all friction that makes it difficult to jump into. Commander gets rid of all of that. You don't need any format knowledge. You can just build your wacky, silly deck and start playing. There isn't really a meta, and people aren't playing the most powerful decks, unless you choose to play competitive Commander. You might check the brackets to see what power level your deck is at, but honestly, as a brand new player, this is probably irrelevant to you. You're likely bracket 2. Also, Commander is really cheap. You don't need expensive staples to start playing or to have a good deck. And since it's so casual, players often use proxies or fake cards all the time. If there's an expensive card you think you want, but don't want to spend money on, just print out a copy of it and put it in front of a cheap card. I do that all the time. 99% of players do not care. And if you run into that 1% who's angry that you didn't give into Wizards and accept $1 billion for a piece of cardboard, then just don't play with that player. They're gatekeeping in an obnoxious way. It's casual Commander. Join another pod. Outside of your deck, you really just need some dice and sleeves to get started. If you want sleeves, I would recommend using Dragon Shield. You can pick up some of these cool new sleeves. I mean, look at these sick black and gold ones. Or you can buy my special Trinket Mage sleeves. And if you use my code TTM at checkout, you get a discount, plus it supports the channel. You can also skip all of that and play digitally on Tabletop Simulator. And there are whole Discord servers dedicated to doing just that. You can basically access every single card in the game ever printed and that will ever be printed by just buying Tabletop Simulator and joining a Discord server. It's pretty cheap to do so. There are also precons, which lets you go from nothing to ready to play with one purchase. Again, you might want some sleeves. It's way easier to shuffle and you won't damage the cards. So if deck building seems too daunting for you, you can skip that whole process. And if the overpriced precons are too expensive, luckily people put in a lot of effort into making some very cool, very budget decks. I had a few of my patrons share some of their most budget decks. I'll link those deck lists below for you to check out. Rewi made a cool Zerda list that's actually pretty powerful. I've played against this deck, and about $15 as of now. Another patron, Cakengrand, made a cool $20 token list. And the cheapest one here by Blues made a Marchesa mid-range list. That's about 13 bucks. If you want to join the Discord, by the way, link to my Patreon below. There's a whole thread of budget decks that people posted, and obviously it supports the channel. Also, last sponsor, you can buy cards from Cool Stuff Inc. using my code TTM. Again, it supports the channel, and you get a discount on cards if you want to build a deck like this. There are also a ton of Commander players. When I go to my local game store on a random day, even when the store is running an event for Riftbound or One Piece, there is a table or two with people playing Commander. You can easily play Commander whenever you want. When somebody asks me how to get into Magic, my advice is download Magic Arena, learn the rules, look up some budget decks online, buy those cards, go to your local game store, play casual Commander. It's easy, it's cheap, there's a lot of fun to be had, or I suggest Tabletop Simulator if they prefer to play online. But what if you don't like Commander? Well, things get a bit trickier. Commander is the 4-player free-for-all casual format, but if you want to play 1v1, competitively, or just some other different format, it's a lot rarer to find players playing those formats. Now, many game stores will still run some weekly event for Standard or Modern, Pauper, maybe Pioneer. So you would need to go to a specific event at a specific store. It's not as easy as just hopping online and playing with anybody. Although people still do play 1v1 on Spell Table and Tabletop, there's just less of those players. And some game stores might not even run events for non-Commander Magic, especially if they're a smaller game store or they run events for other games. 10 years ago, there were not many TCGs, so game stores would run Magic almost all the time. But now game stores fill up with events from other games. So playing in 60-card events at stores are usually relegated to the once-a-week events at your game store. Draft is another common thing that people will still play and happens at stores regularly. Limited events like Draft or Sealed are great. You don't bring any cards to the event, you buy packs there, and then you pick one at a time to build a new deck. Or for pre-release, you get 6 packs and build a deck out of that. Very good for new players to jump into because you don't need to own any cards to start playing, you just buy them at the store. But it does get expensive over time since you have to buy cards every time you draft. Unless it's a cube, but if you're a new player without people around you who play Magic, cube isn't an easy option. And if you decide to play a 60-card format, it can often be more expensive than it was in the past. Back in the day, if you played an Eternal format like Modern or Legacy, it would cost a lot, but decks changed extremely slowly. So you could slowly over time build up to a deck, and over the course of many years, turn your budget version of a list into the full expensive one. But because of power creep, your deck changes more often. So in Eternal formats, you don't have 5-10 years to build into a deck. It might be completely unplayable by year 3. In Modern, we've seen this with the Modern Horizon sets. Right now, Modern Horizons 3 is very dominant in the format, and you need to buy the cards from that to play. But a lot of the Modern Horizons 1 and 2 cards got pushed out by 3. So what happens when Modern Horizons 4 gets printed? If it gets printed, who knows? Maybe all those Modern Horizons 3 cards will become irrelevant. The uncertainty is something that just wasn't there in the past, and makes me personally not want to buy a Modern deck. And that's me talking as an enfranchised player, not even if I wasn't invested in TCGs at all. I was going to record some B-roll here of the standard metagame for the video, and I'm just looking at it. It is crazy how it is just blue-red dominates, and then there's the decks that have Badger Mole Cub in it, and Badger Mole Cub is still $230 for a playset, which is not normal for standard. That's really expensive. And then this card could be irrelevant tomorrow if the next set power creeps it completely, and it's a card that rotates eventually. So it's not like I'm dropping $600 on a deck that I get to keep forever. In a few years, this has to leave, and then you can't play it in standard anymore. Even sideboard cards like $80 for 2 copies. This is crazy. The prices of a lot of these has to do with that they are very powerful and pushed in Commander. Commander moves prices, so they're not standard cards built for just standard. They're standard cards built for this other more popular format, which is juicing up the prices, and that affects standard. And even Commander players are not immune from the rising cost of the game, unless you proxy. Players now pay the licensing fee for Universes Beyond products, so precons or packs end up being really expensive. This makes it harder to get into if you are just starting and looking at the prices to just do a draft or even buy a box to open for yourself. And again, this affects the price of cards overall as well. Not only that, but I imagine the lack of reprints are going to affect the long-term price of a lot of these. Look at those Secret Lair cards from Doctor Who. They're pretty pricey. Or some of these Warhammer cards. If you are not interested in proxying, some of these can become very expensive, and they kind of keep going up in price because it's hard for Wizards to reprint them. And if you're looking at that going, oh, does that make these good investment assets? The answer is no. Hasbro has no vested interest in keeping the prices of these high on the secondary market. Unlike a traditional investment asset like a stock, where the company wants the stock to be a high price, Hasbro doesn't care what the price of a card is on the secondary market. Once it hits whatever point they think it hits and is worth it for them to reprint, they will reprint it, causing the price of the card to go down. We're in a weird spot with card prices right now. Because there are less reprints, since reprint sets don't happen, and more cards are printed than ever, the pool of cards that need reprints has gotten much larger and caused the game to get overall more expensive. Also, because packs just cost more, half the sets every year have a licensing fee tacked onto them. But these will eventually get reprinted into a random bonus sheet or whatever small pool of reprints that we do get, which causes the price to go down. So we'll get 50 cards going up in price and then 5 going down or 10 going down. Again, it makes these really bad long-term holds as an actual financial investment, but in the meantime, in between time, card prices overall on average are higher, which means regular players are left feeling that increased price. There is also Magic Arena, which is both good and bad for Magic. It's good if you want to actually play Standard and just grind and practice and get ready for big tournaments. While the paper player base has dwindled and there will be many stores you visit that don't run any Standard events, the online one is still large enough to play plenty of Standard. The main downside is it can be a money hole. At the very least, with the paper game, you can sell your cards. Even if they don't hold their value, you can still get something back, usually. Or if your cards rotate in paper out of the Standard format, then you can sell them to Commander players or whatever who will use those cards. On Arena, though, if you don't care about other formats and just want to play Standard, your rotated cards are pretty much useless. I do think Arena is an excellent way to learn the basics of the game. The tutorial is pretty great, and it's free to do. So if you want to get the basics and then build a Commander deck to play at your local game store, definitely download Arena. Last point I want to touch on is Universes Beyond, the outside IPs Magic brings into the game. Like Arena, this has ups and downs. If you want something to be excited about, then perhaps your favorite IP is the push you need to get in the door and start playing Magic. But at the same time, you kind of need to like MTG as a whole to stick around. Like, yeah, your favorite guy might be on the picture, but that guy isn't going to show up again, maybe ever. So if you don't care about the game, you're going to lose interest pretty fast. And if you miss the boat on when your favorite guy was printed, legally they can't reprint him with that art, so then buying a copy of it might be more expensive than you bargained for. So is it a good time to get into Magic the Gathering? Let me answer that question by answering, if I never played Magic, would I personally pick up the game right now? I think the answer is honestly no, not initially. Let me explain. When I first got into Magic, I was originally a Yu-Gi-Oh player. At the time, they only really had one format, which was a competitive 1v1 format. Personally, I really like the competitive feel of games. My most played video games would be Smash Bros, which I went to many tournaments, Dota 2, or Overwatch, all PvP competitive games. For me, that's fun. And right now, Magic doesn't offer that nearly as well as other games seem to. Magic's priority is the casual side of the game. Right now, they are leaning into gambling, casual play, and spectacle. All things I am personally not very interested in. I think in an alternate timeline, I'd actually play a different game. In fact, I am interested in other games right now because I would love to go back to playing 1v1 competitive, and Magic's current options just don't fit that for me. So in the comments, let me know what game I should get into. Now, don't get it twisted, I love Magic. If you were to ask me what my favorite video game of all time is, I would say Dota 2. But this is also a game I would literally never get into if I wasn't already into it. Some things you really only appreciate with time. Dota is one of those things, and I think Magic is kind of the same for me. I used to be someone who was really spiky and really only cared about the competitive side of the game. Over years, I learned to appreciate the deck building and creativity you really only get in casual Commander. But it took me a long time to learn that. I think the more I play TCGs, the less powerful cards interest me. And I actually think this is a lesson most players will learn over time. Maybe that'll be its own video. Subscribe to see that. And right now, Magic is really good at providing a casual brewer's paradise. I could see myself getting tired of meta decks and the competitive nature of some other card games, and wanting a more casual experience. But those other games don't offer that. Magic does, though. I think I would eventually find my way back to playing Commander in the long run. Ultimately, Magic does casual, goofy games better than any other TCG right now. And if you don't care about proxies, it's pretty damn cheap. So, although I don't know if I would get into Magic right now because of how I think I am, how much I love competitive 1v1 games, I think I would eventually find my way back into it. And if you are looking for a casual, sillier, goofier, laid back TCG experience, Magic is the way to go. It's got every other game beat. Yuri's Best asks, since you started playing CDH before a lot of the current staples were out, what was the CDH meta like back when you started? Way slower and a lot more lower colored decks. It was pretty interesting because, I mean, the Scion of the Ur-Dragon was like a big threat at the time, and a lot more people were on Hermit Druid piles because that was kind of the best way to win with Laboratory Maniac. Removal also was just better, like spot removal outside of counter magic. A lot of it was because Labman was like one of the big threats. So removing Labman with like Abrupt Decay was like really good. But because of Thassa's Oracle, all that spot removal stuff is kind of gone. So it was a lot more spot removal heavy. There's a lot more Brewer's Advantage because your decks with less colors that were a little bit more jank were not outcompeted as well because there weren't as many like powerful cards. But now there's so many individually powerful cards that being a multicolor deck is just so much better. So I feel like that has been like the big shift is you used to see a lot more monocolor decks like Yisan the Wandering Bard and stuff. And that's all just kind of gone. Thanks for watching. If you want to ask questions like my patron did just there, all you got to do is join the Patreon or join the membership. I'll do a post for members only. You can also get in the credits if you are a tier 3 patron. So check that out as well. Thanks for watching.